Welcome, citizens of the cosmos, fans of Aquarius 3E all over the world, to another episode of Around the World in San Francisco. Today's episode is titled, You Ain't Want It Badder Than MJ. So let's go to the first writing. And that's the thing about it, is that you ain't want it badder than MJ. Because in order to win, you have to lose and sacrifice a lot. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable, never be complacent. It's like, how many people do you think MJ can talk to? Maybe him and Charles Barkley and Tiger Woods can go to Vegas for a weekend and gamble. But then let's say MJ doesn't gamble anymore. The higher you go, the colder it gets. There isn't anyone you can share a word with. And so that's the theme for today. You ain't want it badder than MJ. And as you can see, riding my bicycle here, this was last Sunday, one of the rainiest days in the history of San Francisco. And I decided to go out on my bike and still do my food deliveries, my UberEats. Because for me, this is an opportunity. This is a chance for me to show how bad do I really want this. Am I gonna let some rain stop me from fulfilling my dream, my purpose? Or do I let it propel me? It's really how you look at things, right? So this was one of the rainiest days in San Francisco history. Apparently it was like a river in the sky, which that would be a great song, don't you think? River in the sky over San Francisco. And the water was just pouring down constantly. It was just like, it was like being in some kind of like a mist sauna, but it was like cold, really cold, right? And I went out. And my wife, she also went out. We did our food deliveries. We made like $600 in just that one day, right? And you ain't want it badder than MJ. To me, MJ, of course, refers to like Michael Jordan, right? But it can also be a lot of different people. It's like a euphemism when I say like MJ. Like, you ain't want it badder than MJ. It really just means to become the greatest, the absolute greatest at what you are doing. That is MJ. Michael Jackson also, you could lump him in there. His initials are also MJ. I would say Tom Brady, you could say he's an MJ, right, of football. He's 44 years old. And you ever see the shot of him when his team is down? He's on the sideline, right? And he'll put his head down like this. And he puts his arms down. And he has his eyes closed and he's just like in the zone. And I saw him do that against the Saints on Sunday, right? He's 44 years old. He has 7 Super Bowls. He doesn't need to be doing this. Like, what is it that's driving him to keep going? To me, that's the most remarkable thing. Because success, money, fame, accolades, all those things, those are really easy to hit on a very weak part of the human condition, which is like complacency or arrogance. You lose your touch with the common person. But from what I understand, Tom Brady treats the 53rd guy on the roster like he does anybody else. And that's a pretty remarkable thing. So when I see those kind of traits in people, I try to replicate them because I think that's pretty remarkable. I think that's very special. But you ain't want it badder than MJ. For me, Michael Jordan, of course, his passion for the game, his success, obviously it's something to be attracted to. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's really his story, right? Look at his story arc. It's incredibly unique. It's really special, and that's why we love him. I would say more than someone like LeBron James. Like, let's compare those two, right? LeBron can't win in Cleveland, and so he's like, I'm going to make a decision. And he makes it apparently look like it's this charity thing, and he goes down to the Heat, plays for the Heat, and he wins like 2 championships in 4 years down there. And it's like, great, good for you. You know what I mean? Like, people like him and everything, and he's physically incredibly gifted, and I'm not knocking him. He's a great player, a great athlete, but I don't think he would ever be loved and his story ever be as great as MJ, because look at MJ's story, right? Gets drafted to the Bulls. They were like a joke franchise. If you watch The Last Dance, like, they were like doing drugs in the hotel, like sleeping with hookers and this kind of stuff. And he goes in and he transforms the entire culture, right? And they faced formidable foes. He got knocked out of the playoffs multiple times by the Detroit Pistons. They were just bigger, stronger. They were intimidating. And MJ didn't say, well, I can't win here in Chicago, or how he says it, Chicago. He went and he bulked up. He's like, I got to get stronger. I have to be a stronger person, physically and mentally, in order to go against these guys. Dan Beer, Dennis Rodman, all of these guys, right? Got stronger, and then the next year came back. They won. They beat those Pistons. Won 3 championships in a row, right? And there's so many great iconic images of him, like after they win those championships, and he's like hugging the trophy, and he's like holding it, right? Like it's a baby or something, and he's like crying. Those are really powerful images to me, because it shows someone that like gave up everything to become that great, and it's easy to look back at that now and say, oh, that's so great, I wish I was a part of that, and Michael Jordan, I wish I was on that team. But I'll tell you what, to become that good at something, it takes an incredible amount of sacrifice. And a lot of times it's not about what you do, it's about what you don't do, what you're giving up, what you're discarding, right? The sacrifice. To me, that's the incredible thing. Bob Dylan also said that, like, in order to be like, I think he used the example of like Madonna's skill level, he kind of like persuaded people not to do that, because he said, like, in order to be that good, like, you would have to sacrifice a lot. And I don't think that's what the average person is willing to do, right? I'm not knocking the average person. I'm just saying, like, what makes someone like MJ? He's a person, has the same amount of bones in his body, as you and me. There's plenty of other 6'6", guards out there, right? Why did MJ become MJ? And I would say it's that drive, that desire to never be satisfied. He also said, like, one of the things that motivated him was the fear of the unknown. Like, no one really knows. And that's what drove him. Like, no one knew how good Michael Jordan could become. And so he kept pushing himself, right? And that's kind of, what I'm doing here. As you can see, like, there's water here on my GoPro. Just riding my bike on a Sunday. Most people are inside, and that's cool. I'm not knocking that. I don't expect everyone to do what I'm doing, but that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make, in order to see my dream come true. Because actually, I was telling my wife this the other day. I was like, the reason I did this and I have to do it this way is because, no one was giving me a shot. I got all these gifts, all these talents, all these things in my mind, but like no one was giving me an opportunity. Just like looking at me like, I'm crazy. I'm not physically the biggest guy in the world. So when I walk into a room, I don't think, I move anyone's eyes. But, the thing about that is you cannot measure someone's heart, right? That's not something that, there's no apparatus that can measure like someone's will, their heart, their imagination, all of these things. Like if there was an apparatus that would test, me for those things, like they would be like off the charts. It would probably break the machine, and so I basically said, well, okay, so if no one's going to give me a shot, no one's going to let me, fulfill my dream, give a young guy an opportunity, whatever you want to call it, but I'll just do it myself. If it takes 5 years, okay. It takes 10 years, okay. If it takes 20 years, who cares? At the very least, at least I can say I did everything in my power to make this thing come true. Aquarius 3E, all my visions, all my dreams. I put the work in. People saw me do it. I provided a service to people. And this vision that I have, like, I think it's something that America needs. I think the world needs it, to be honest with you. I think the world is like in a pretty uncomfortable place right now. Things are so polar, right? Especially like with politics. Anything can like set people off. It can trigger them. And I just think how I think and the way I'm doing things, like, doesn't matter if you're libtarded or a conservator, whatever your leaning may be, what I'm talking about is like improving your character, your heart, like gaining knowledge, gaining wisdom. Actually, I was talking to a young guy I met today outside of Chipotle, and I was telling him about like Chinese, right? Learning Chinese, which I'm doing now in my videos. And I said, learning is like a drug, and like an addictive drug that doesn't kill you. Like, it makes you more powerful. The more you learn, the more you want to learn. So the more you learn, you expand your mind, you expand your consciousness, like the less opportunity there is for ignorance and hate, right? And doubt and fear, all of those negative emotions. Because the more you learn, the more confidence you have in yourself, the more broad-minded you become, the more you can understand other people's suffering, all of these kind of things, right? So anyway, as you guys can see here, I got a new mic here. This is the Rode Podcaster. I think it's pretty good. I like the sound quality. Some of my other videos, like I was just using my iPhone mic, because that's just what I had at the time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have the money to buy a better mic. And this mic, I'm just doing like a month-to-month kind of payment. Oh, here's AMC. AMC's ripping right now. Apparently, not financial advice, but it's going to rip here in November, probably before Christmas. Anyway, let's go to another writing. I took this picture in front of the Transamerica Pyramid. Just one morning, I was just like very positive, in a good mood, and I wrote, and I was all just like, damn, we made it, Playboy. All I wanted was just a shot. I just wanted to be in the game. Don't even care if it's the 16th seed. This is a Cinderella story, a Cinderella team, and we finna win the World Cup, Super Bowl, World Series, and NBA championship. Right? And so these are just like, there's words that kind of come to me. Like, it's a idea I'm trying to express, that what I'm doing with Aquarius 3E, I don't need much. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at this. I'm just like in my apartment with this cool microphone, my MacBook Pro, my GoPro's filming this footage, and you can see, you don't need to look at this for a long time to know, like, this is different. This is kind of unique. No one else is doing something like this, at this point at least. And I do think people are going to copy this sort of thing in the future. Here's another thing I wrote. Added some new accessories to my bicycle while going around the world in San Francisco. I went a whole winter without them, not sure how. Just prayer, actually. I'm usually just praying while I ride, or singing songs. I just want to point out that what I did was really impossible. In hindsight, once it's been done, it's easy to say that it was a given. But to think that I could create this whole thing just by riding my bike in what is one of the most, if not the most expensive city in the world, and pancake a pandemic on top of it, it's just an epic tale. And like I said, people will copy my model in the future, and I welcome them. But I think the results they get will be different. Why? It's because the illusion has already been lifted. Once it's been done, it gives confidence to others that they can do it. But the truth is that everyone has their own path. If they search sincerely enough, they'd find a road. I just think my story is a little special. I think it's something the world needed, so I had to do it. So that's like what I was saying just a moment ago is, this path that I took, which is basically like I'm speaking my reality into existence. I'm manifesting my reality into existence. I'm like piercing through levels, like with my bicycle, going all these places, doing all these deliveries. Like, think about how many people I've met in San Francisco delivering food, all of the people at the stores, people, on the sidewalk. Everyone has an energy, right? And so the more I go around, I'm at 24,100 something miles right now. Your essence, like who you are, it gives off that energy. And so it affects other things in the world. And like, to give you an example, it's like when you're kind, let's say, saying thank you, please, how are you? These kind of things, like, it helps change people's thinking, because the world is pretty negative. I would say San Francisco in particular, it's pretty negative. People are just caught up in negative thinking. And actually, that's what I've said earlier in some other writings, is America's issue is not necessarily a left or right thing, it's a thinking issue. America has an incredibly negative thinking. Look at on Twitter, look at Reddit, look at how people talk to each other, right? Unless you're in some chorus post where everyone's just repeating the same thing, the same thoughts. A lot of it is just negative. You're attacking people that you don't even know. You wouldn't normally talk to others like that if you saw them face to face and in person, so it takes a lot of time to cultivate your character and cultivate kindness as well. That's what I was listening to. Joe Rogan podcast. He had Yanis Papas on there, and Yanis is a Greek comedian. I like to listen to him. He's very funny, and I think humor is a great way to kind of get through to people, because when you don't take things too seriously, kind of let people's guard down a little bit, right? Not everything that I say or you say or anyone says is a direct threat to you. A lot of it, they're words, and yes, words do carry energy, but when you use humor, it bypasses the brain a little bit. It gets closer to the heart, like music too. Music also gets closer to the heart. Speaking of which, I'm gonna be releasing more music coming up, especially since I have this nice microphone now. I think that it will really improve my songs. Let's go to another writing here. This was on October 19th, about 10:19 at night, so at nighttime. I got a delivery to go through Golden Gate Park. So this is what I wrote. This kind of scene will definitely be in the Around the World in San Francisco film. It's all about creating a memory, visual and emotional, really strong character traits and choices. So I'm riding my bike in the night through Golden Gate Park. Voiceover. I found my road. My path is clear to me, and nothing can deter me. And, this whole story that I'm telling, all these ideas that I have, these writings, even what I'm speaking now, it's all part of the story, the Around the World in San Francisco story. How I funded Aquarius 3 by riding my bicycle, doing food deliveries for UberEats, right? This is an iconic American story. I'd say it's a very San Franciscan story. Entrepreneur, visionary, you want to create something and you go out and work for it, right? I never went out and was like, some hedge funds or venture capital firms saying like, hey, give me X amount of money and I can do this and that, because I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be beholden to other people who don't know anything, right? Just because you have a bunch of money, like whether your family, inherited that, you inherited that from your family, or you worked for it, whatever it may be, money is just like one thing to become like good at money. Like I'm just mostly about the heart, right? Money, of course, plays a role. I can't be doing this recording here if I'm living on the street cold every night, thinking about what to eat. So money plays a role too, but it's not everything. And so how I saw it was like, hey, you know what? If I do it, if I work for it, I don't have to be beholden to anyone, and I can let this thing happen how it should, very naturally, and it will be mine. I don't need to answer to anybody. And I think that's the direction the world is going in anyway. I think the world is it's becoming like very like skills based. So like in the future, it's like everyone will be like independent contractors, and someone who knows you, they'll say he's really good at this, and then they sign you up. You get paid to work with this person, right? They pay you to do something for them, or you've already become self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and you're using other people to help you do something, right? That's just one of my ideas. I'm, of course, like, yeah, sure, there'll still be opportunities for people to like have jobs and 401ks and all that, but at least for me and what I'm doing, like, I want to do a lot of things. I don't want to just do one thing. Life is too short to just be doing one thing all day. There's so many things to do. And I hope my story could inspire other people to do the same, not limit themselves, because you only limit yourself based on like your own imagination, right? All right, let's go to another writing. Here's a photograph of Jesus being crucified. And it's got some quotes here, and it's just, about this whole situation that's going on, right? You all know what I'm talking about. So this is what I wrote. I was reflecting on Jesus' story compared with Buddha's. To me, the story is what moves people's heart the most, and heaven has to craft it a certain way to touch their people's hearts. Like Buddha's story, for example. It's a lot of self-reflection, going to extremes and finding peace in a middle path. I think that's because Eastern people tend to be more introverted, not absolutely, but generally that's the case. Meanwhile, Jesus' story is more visual, especially with the crucifixion. Westerners tend to like a show. We like football, UFC, the theater, cinema, our politicians to be big personalities. So I think heaven had to craft the story that way, to make the visual memory really strong in people. Jesus could have fled before the Roman guards arrived. After all, he had supernormal abilities. He could have evaded the crucifixion, but he knew it was his destiny. It was something he had to do in order to bear the sins of his people. And, for me, I study all of the great wise people of history. A lot of them are referred to like as enlightened beings, gods, whatever you want to call it. These were people who had a specific purpose sent here from heaven, and they did it. And to me, modern religions, obviously deviated a lot from what those people initially said. And even Buddha, he actually said that his teachings would only they would only have an effect for 6 generations. And he left the earth like 2,600 years ago. So 6 generations, that passed even before Jesus came to the world. And after 6 generations, the teachings lose more and more influence, right? Because things constantly change. And not only that, is the scriptures themselves were not written by those people, right? Buddha did not write the sutras. Jesus did not write the gospels. They spoke those things, they taught those things, and then later on their disciples wrote them down, or they were translated into different languages, right? The only issue with that is no matter how good a disciple is, the hearing that they have, their hearing memory, is not perfect, for sure. And not only is their hearing memory not perfect, but even their own understanding of the teachings is not perfect. And so what they transmit, what they teach, is definitely not exactly what Jesus or Buddha said. So it's not perfect. And I think it actually had to be like that, right? Because the world is a wicked, dirty place. And so to have God's words directly, in the human realm, is not allowed, right? So, a lot of people, they're kind of callous toward religion and spirituality because of what's happened with religions. Their religions are just really corporations at this point, right? They're these communities where people make money, they come together, have social interactions and can improve their net worth, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not saying there's no spiritual stuff going on. They're trying, but I don't think they can really save people anymore at this point. I don't believe that they can. And Christians and Buddhists and that sort of thing, they would probably have an issue with me saying that, but prove me wrong, right? Because if the teachings were really that effective, I don't think, I went to Christian school for 8 years, and I can tell you, it's not too much Christian stuff going on there, right? They're trying. I'm not saying they didn't try, but I'm just saying give you an example, someone as gifted and special as me, there was a time I was actually afraid to go to school, Christian school, and my family is paying money to go to this school, and I'm afraid to go to school. That's the kind of hostile environment that they created there. So, that's my story. I'm just telling you, what I experienced. Other people may not be like that, but that's my story. So I'm pretty firm on what I said about Christianity. I love Jesus, definitely. Don't get me wrong. Love Buddha and all of that, but I don't think that their teachings can save people anymore at this point.